Hello, USL students. I wanted to provide a screencast for some important information regarding the final presentation and the information that we are requesting that you do and the research prior to us leaving so that when we are in Costa Rica we can really focus on our experience. So if you go into the Assignments tab, and you scroll down to the brainstorm topic selection, I did make changes to it because remember I talked about it being a presentation versus a 7 to 9 page paper. The rubrics have not been changed. They still say paper, but the descriptions have been changed as of today. So if you go into the first one, you're going to be asked to create a critical research presentation about 5 to 7 minutes in length, and we can be flexible in the timing to make sure that you get everything in. Examining a social justice issue as it relates to the population which you've been serving this semester. And then I'll prompt you to we'll go together into the research presentation for more information. So this is to kind of get you to start to think about what you want your presentation to be on. That way you can land on a topic and then you can start your annotated bibliography. And the idea is that you have a solid annotated bibliography before we leave to Costa Rica. So then you can focus just on your presentation in Costa Rica. So the brainstorming has a couple of prompts. Think about a social justice issue and population that you're serving. A social justice issue that faces the people that you're serving on a regular basis. What are some of their barriers to success? How might everyday activities or tasks be different for someone in your service population? And you can go on and go forth. There's, all the way you want to answer all of these. Each of these should be 200 words, and so this is a written assignment. And then starting your research, after you do these, you want to say, as a result of your answers in question 1, what now? What is left unanswered? What other ideas do you have that should be researched? So ideally, it's a social justice issue that inspires you, that angers you, that drives you to want to learn more about it. Because as you land on this topic, you're going to get into research and you want to be vested in what that is. And hopefully it will benefit you in your teaching and also in your future. I know we have a psych major, so in anything that you plan to do in your future. And then what topics will you begin researching? This is something that I will look at to make sure that I understand it, and then I can give you guidance if you need it. But many of you probably already have social justice issues that you're pretty passionate about. So this is the actual research presentation brainstorm, okay? And this, you can write it right in this template. Again, be sure you adhere to the 200 word for each section, meaning A, B, C, D. It's really to get you to kind of flush through and think about things that inspire you, that are important to you. Okay, and if we look at this, I actually made this due on a Friday, and I did that very intentional, May 3rd, because the second piece of that is your annotated bibliography, and we want to have as much of that front work done prior to us leaving. So it may seem like a tight timeline. However, again, from the feedback that we heard last year, the students were doing this in Costa Rica, and it was taken away from kind of their experience there because they were focused on what was due. So in an effort to not do that, we are changing it a little. And forgive me, I'm going to walk with my laptop if you hear certain things because I see that my battery is dying. The second part is the actual annotated bibliography proposal. And if you've never done an annotated bibliography, I have a template for you. You can also access the library. The Ask My Librarian is open until 5 virtually, or you can choose to go into the library. They do email you back. Let me just get plugged in here. Sorry about that. So this is going to be due on the Sunday. Usually our assignments are due on Sunday. So your brainstorming is due Friday, and this is due the following Sunday. And you do want to put this bibliography, sorry, I'm out of breath now, in APA format. So annotated bibliography is a reference list. And basically, it's the citation with about 4 to 8 sentences of description. And that's to remind you what that article was. For instance, in my dissertation, I probably read 300 articles. I kept an annotated bibliography because I obviously didn't use all 300 articles, but I had a brief synopsis of each one so that when I really honed down what I wanted to do, I could easily pull the applicable research that was a part of that. So for this assignment, you're going to find 4 credible sources. 3 of those are journal articles, and 1 can be a website. So each of them should follow the criteria. Again, 3 are external sources that should be attained from a scholarly journal. And you have access for that for free through the library online. You may use one of the articles that we used in class, but you are only limited to using one of those. So let's say that the banana industry article was really compelling to you and it fits in line with what you're doing. You can use that one, but you can't use the other ones for the critical reflection. So 1 can be from class. The other 2 then would be external, or you can choose all 3 of them to be external and none of them from our class. And then 1 source should include information on what's currently being done to alleviate the problem. That can include a website, a blog, anything like that. They should be as current as possible, so we're asking 2012 or more recent. And it can be a combination to address the topic in the US and globally. If you have a hard time finding it globally, that's fine. We can make the connection to our experiences in Costa Rica. So if you're unfamiliar with doing research, visit the issued library, and I'll go on that link in a second. And then obviously Purdue OWL, make sure that you list APA as the references. It's got a sample paper, and it's got specifically how you would reference that in APA, particularly a journal, and it's got an electronic blog as well. This is a sample of a journal in APA. Notice that the first line is not indented, and it's only the, oops, I already see this should be a period. It should be the first initial and last name, and in order of how it appears in the article, so not necessarily alphabetical when it comes to this. Multiple ones, you definitely want to put it in alphabetical. So if I had like something that was started with an A, then I would put that first. You put the year, the name of the title, and notice that the second line is indented. And then if it goes beyond second line, every line thereafter is indented. And then the journal is italicized. Okay. The DOI's number, if it's available, you can put that on there. Obviously, this is like issue number and volume number, and then the pages. So if you have any questions, be sure that you ask me about that. Again, this particular article was done in 2007, and we're asking it to be 2012. Here's an example based on this that someone wrote a synopsis about it. So they went a little bit beyond the sentences. We would say about 4 to 8 sentences. Whatever helps you capture so that you don't have to reread that article, that you can say, oh yeah, I do remember that article, and that's the one I want to use. And then you'll list them here in the template below. Be sure you take that out and you source 1. That's just to prompt you. And then you start writing, the actual citation. This actually has 5 sources, so you only are required to do 4. Again, 3 are journal, and 1 can be a website or a blog. Okay. So with that being said, let's just hop over to the library. Okay, so I found that one search is really difficult, and some of you may know that the library website went through a change. I like, for our purposes, we know we're looking at journals, and so I would go to view frequently used resources, and particularly for our social justice issues, I would say use either ERIC or PsycInfo. Okay, if you find something on if you try to use Google Scholar, make sure that you don't pay for any journal article. If you go through the library, it's all for free. So ERIC and PsycInfo. Let's say you find a really compelling article in PsycInfo, and in the references page of that article, obviously that's gold because it's what you're looking up. So if I'm looking up immigration issues, then if I go find a good journal in PsycInfo, you can go to the references page. Oh, it's making me sign in. So you do have to be signed in. And you can look at the references that article cited, and you may be able to find your other 2 citations. And then you definitely want to go online to look at the web for something, either a blog or whatever that's related to that. Go back to assignments. Purdue OWL is an awesome resource if you haven't used it. It also has changed and looks kind of different, so don't let that scare you. What I kind of cheat. I go to APA sample paper, and it takes me to Purdue OWL, but it takes me exactly where I want to go. And this shows you a sample paper. And I think the sample paper actually just has books on it. So this is a sample paper if you were having to write a whole paper in APA. The reference list is what I'm looking for. Okay, so here is an example again, even though we provide one the template of a journal. So these are the authors: Cummings, Butler, Kraut, 2002. The name, and then the journal is always italicized. If you have any questions about that, you can always look over here on the left, and there's a formatting guide. So since you're not writing a paper and you're doing citations for the annotated bibliography, you would definitely want to focus on the reference list. And then for journals, we have the template provided. And then if you're using electronic sources like a website, this kind of goes through different things: a web page, online content, an article. So there's different ways that you can do that. Electronic books, which probably won't be applicable. But this left-hand side really helps with knowing how to do that. So if you used a blog, this is the way you would do it. If you used a video, that's the way you would do it. Okay? So hopefully that gives you a brief overview. You can go straight to Purdue OWL, or you can do it the way I did it. I do it a variety of ways. You can always ask the librarian. There is a services, help. Ask the librarian. Again, ask the librarian is only available until 5 o'clock. Usually you can text them. Oh, now it's open till 8. So that's awesome. You can chat with them. You can say, hey, I'm having trouble finding an article that's relevant on this topic. And they can also help you with the APA citation. Then the research paper. So this is going to be due this Sunday. So this is due Friday. This is due Sunday. And the intentionality behind that is to really make it meaningful so that you have the bulk of your research done, so that when you get to Costa Rica, you can just spend some time focusing on the actual presentation. So it says paper still. I thought I changed that today. I apologize. So let's see. Okay, it looks like I need to submit this again, but wherever it says paper, we're just doing presentations, so not a big deal. Basically, for your presentation, you want to have an introduction. You want to tell us what you're talking about. You want to have a review of the literature. That's going to be you focusing on talking about your annotated bibliography. The body of your presentation would be where you present evidence and arguments for solutions. So you're going to be kind of answering your who, what, where, when, and why that you do in your critical reflections. And then you want to have a conclusion that summarizes your findings. The revised copy, which I'll make sure is in there soon, is the bibliography. And that's basically your annotated bibliography that you've already done. Now let's say you get into, you submit the annotated bibliography on Sunday prior to us leaving. You can always add to that. You don't need to keep resubmitting it. It's great if you find another article. If you've got time, on your flights or whatever, and you want to pull some articles, you can always add to it. You just have to have a minimum of 3 journal articles and 1 website. Within your presentation, again, whatever it says paper, say presentation, you want to clearly define the social justice issue, how it relates to the population that you're serving, how does it contribute to our daily lives, and then you want to support your description and issue and the impact by citing relevant information, which is the literature review, the annotated bibliography, as well as your experience at the site and your personal life. So this is where you get to bring in the hard work that you did leading up to leaving for Costa Rica with your service learning hours. And then you want to discuss the possible solutions. So again, I will repost this. It's not a paper. I apologize. I did it earlier and it must not have taken. So it is about a 7-minute presentation, and make sure that you cover all of those. And it's very low tech, right? We don't know what we'll have. So we know that there's going to be, it's a good idea to bring note cards to kind of help so that you cover all of the elements of the presentation. And then we will have the larger sticky note kind of things in case you want to also use that as a prompt. I would encourage you to bring photos. If there's a photo that relates to your social justice issue that you can show us, it can be online and you can print it off, or any kind of data in terms of pie charts or interesting graphs that could also contribute to it. But again, this is a very low tech, so you have to be a little bit creative in terms of the preparation for this. So I gave you the big picture because I want you to know where we're landing. So the 2 things that are most important is ultimately getting this annotated bibliography done. And again, it must be an APA. That's going to be part of the grading. Once you get a good citation, like this one, that's how you do every journal. You put the authors, the year. You notice that the title, only the first letter is capitalized. And then for the journal, it's a little bit different, and that is italicized. This is the volume and issue number, the pages, and then the DOI is optional. If you have it, which you probably will, going through the library, put it on there. If you don't, it's okay. It just makes the reader a little bit, it makes it easier for us to look it up in case we wanted to see the article. So I hope this is a good overview for the research presentation. Again, it doesn't have to be Costa Rica specific. It needs to be a social justice issue that you're interested in and that you are seeing or experiencing in part at your service site. Usually that's a micro level, right? And usually it's a bigger issue at a macro level. So if you have any questions at all, please email me. I'm willing to talk to you. We can set up time to talk, Zoom. I know class is Monday. I'm in a faculty meeting all day tomorrow, but I'll make time on the weekend should you have questions. And then just be sure that, again, you have the due dates correct for these. So brainstorming, the 3rd, which is a Friday, which is an unusual time for us. And then the annotated bib is due on Sunday because we leave. And then the research presentation will be due towards the very end of our trip, the last, I think, the 2 nights before we depart our ways. And so you've got some time there. And I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. Let Alex know. And we look forward to you on Monday. We're going to be doing a lot of information. Class starts at the regular time. However, it extends until 2 o'clock. And so that's when we'll be doing a lot of the details and logistics, but that's when you're also doing your ASIS animal presentations. So feel free again to email me, call me. I'm here for you. Even if you want me to look at your citation to see if it's formatted correctly, I can do that as long as it's before the due date. Okay? Thank you. Have a good evening.